The Sony Cup Series is back. It is 2020, and we are back in session. For almost 3 months, fans of the Sony Cup Series have been starved for excitement. But March features a mouth-watering menu at a 5-star establishment. Daytona International Speedway finally began cooking yesterday, and how it stands ready to serve up today's special. A refreshing return to racing with 20 drivers set to roar in an on-track appetizer to the Sony Cup Series 2020 season. It is the Sony Shootout. 20 drivers, like we mentioned, are getting set and ready to take on 20 laps around this Daytona International Speedway. Pole sitters of last year, past winners of the Sony Shootout, and Daytona 500 champions have recently been added to the field for this year. Daytona 500 champions have not been part of the requirement of making it onto the grid for this race. Now, it is up the entry list to 20 drivers set to run for an expedition race tonight. 20 laps for 20 drivers, the 2020 season. How about that? Let's get this show on the road. There they are. Qualifying was done by random draw like it always has been. Bobby Jones is on pole for today's race. James Shelley alongside of him. All drivers getting a chance to run 20 laps door to door, racing in a racing for pride, really. The first race of the season. Who's going to get it done? Which team has showed off the most? Which team is prepared to win the Daytona 500? It starts now. Racing on track, 20 drivers are out there. Affiliate team cars on the front row. And then you have the Turner cars behind them of Davis and the defending champion in a new ride. Turner, the 2015 champion. There's Griffin, one of the most winning driver last year. The green flag's out. The 2020 season is underway. Down the back straightaway for the first time this evening. They're looking 3 wide down into turn 3. Ryan Griffin won the most races last year, was a title contender, and really came into his own last season. Has came out front and taken the race lead. But here comes Matthew Rodriguez and the number 9, newly numbered for him. Same team, different number, the 9 car. Matthew Rodriguez, season 14, Daytona 500 champion. That's the only reason he's in this race, Daytona 500 champions. Luke Martin's a past winner of this race. There he is for CM Racing, and they're looking kind of competitive. The inside line definitely moving in the first lap. This is going to be an uncut, calm race. We're going to go flag to flag. It's unusual to go flag to flag in coverage, but we're doing it for this race. We did that last season. 20 drivers all in a pack together. Double file further back from 5th onwards. How about that? James Sorfox, he is back in the Sony Cup Series, driving the Monster Energy Racing Dodge, and he's up here to the inside of Luke Martin. Griffin trying to claw his way back. He seems like he has a fast car early on. Sorfox and Sanford, new teams on the grid, and they're in this race, and they're showing out. They have pretty potential pace early on to be able to hold it there on the inside and be competitive. But Matthew Rodriguez leading them around so far. This track is very bumpy, and that'll be a characteristic for Daytona. And look at Luke Martin there in the CM Racing car. He is very racy, and that car is pretty quick too to get to the inside of that 43. Now the Dodges have really struggled with reliability in winter testing, and we wondered if that would be any hindrance to them for the 2020 season, but it is just practice for the Daytona 500, and it is also a race anyway. Griffin is looking pretty competitive, and how about Dejon Weeks to the inside of Cody Lamas in a new ride for him. A lot of drivers up here in this race as well. Matthew Rodriguez, Luke Martin, Ryan Griffin, Charles Sanford, Kyle Collins, James Sorfox, Weeks, Hoffman, Lamas, James, and a lot of drivers in new rides. There's Curtis Shelley and Davis getting shuffled back. Dylan Young there with Ryan Acosta, Jesse Turner, last year's Daytona 500 champion Chris Dodd, Fitzwater, and Bobby Jones in the 98's been shuffled back to 19th. Tom Capps is dead last so far. But here comes Charles Sanford. He's won the Sony Shootout twice before, and that's the reason why he's eligible to be in this race. Sanford in the 5 for Red Bull Racing, moving his way up to 3rd place alongside Luke Martin, but for the lead on lap 5, going on lap 6. Ryan Griffin trying to take the race lead from Matthew Rodriguez, and he will. The 43 car is out front. Now it's going to be interesting to see how these cars react as the run goes on. We know that these tires are not the same that's going to be used all season. The tires that will be ran most of the season. And how about that run by Matthew Rodriguez to get the inside? Tracks 2 miles and longer are using a different tire compound that these teams have been testing in the winter tests. So here at Daytona International Speedway, that different tire will not be in effect for them this speed weeks. But Luke Martin and CM Racing, they are looking very fast here in the Sony Shootout. And many drivers and teams, many people have wondered if Mace Enterprises' absence of not being on the grid for 2020, if that would hinder Chevy's ability to win races like they have beforehand. And CM Racing's showing right now, early on in the Sony Shootout at least, that they have some horsepowers under the hood of that Zero car. And Martin is in 3rd, in danger of falling back in position. Dejon Weeks started on the back row of this. He's won this race twice in the last 2 years. And he is up here racing for the lead. Luke Martin dove to the inside, didn't have the grip to get down on the inside of the 38. Matthew Rodriguez has got a very fast Toyota Camry, though. Rodriguez has been able to stay out front and be relatively competitive. And Jeff James, who has really struggled in preseason testing for the winter test to really have the speed, his United Emirates Racing car is up to par. And he's up here with these guys in the top half of the grid. Ryan Griffin's got a pretty good car as well. He's been staying up near the front. Same with Luke Martin. Martin the inside of Dejon Weeks. That track is very bumpy. It's going to be hard to make a pass without much help on the inside. These cars fanning out a little bit. Jesse Turner's there. He dropped back early on. He's back in the top 10. Ryan Acosta's been very quiet in this race with Dylan Young as well. Young going to the inside of Ryan Acosta there, trying to work his way up the running order, going past 2 race cars. Charles Sanford for Red Bull is actually still looking very competitive, but Dejon Weeks looking for a checkered flag 3 years in a row to the inside of Matthew Rodriguez. Ryan Griffin's got some help from Jesse Turner to give a shove to Dejon Weeks. Can Weeks get alongside to make a run here? The inside prevailing here. Rodriguez only has help from Luke Martin, side by side over turn 2. Weeks, Rodriguez, side by side for the top spot in the Sony Shootout. Griffin shoving the 38 down into turn 3. Luke Martin really bottomed out there in turn 3. Lost a lot of his momentum. Drops back to Dylan Young. And the winner the last 2 years, by halfway in the race, is leading at the line, but not for long. Ryan Griffin to the inside, but Jesse Turner takes a peek, tucks right back in on the 43 car. Weeks on the high side, trying to get the momentum going. The outside line building now. A lot of company joining Dejon Weeks on the high side, including Daytona 500 champions of Young, Dodd, up there with them. And Weeks shoots back to the lead ahead of Ryan Griffin. Griffin and Weeks dominated the series in 2019. They won a lot of races and were the face of the series for the most part. And they lead here at the Daytona Sony Shootout. Right now, Weeks is looking like he has a very fast Ford Mustang. The Mustangs making their debut on the racetrack. They are 3 wide further back. Jeff James making a move on Kyle Collins. Young round the outside. Gonna take position ahead of both of them. Chris Dodd lets in his good buddy of Kyle Collins in line. Matthew Rodriguez has a run here on Ryan Griffin. He's going to make a move to the inside. Gets the door slammed on him. Coming back to the line, it'll be 8 laps to go. Griffin trying to get a little bit of a run here. Single filed all the way back to about 9th place. Rodriguez to the inside on Griffin. Martin getting shuffled by his old teammate, Jesse Turner, trying to go to the inside, but Dylan Young's going to go to the outside. Griffin has Luke Martin for company. Kyle Collins bottoms out, but he moves up the lane. That 38 is really fast. Dejon Weeks started out back, and it has not caused him any problems. Martin shutting the door on Dylan Young. Young's going to give him a push up to 3rd place. Wow. Early on, a lot of maneuvers early on as they fan out just a little bit as the tire wear is falling down now. Martin falling back. He's going to get a good run on the back straightaway, I believe, on these two guys. They're running side by side. Can Ryan Griffin take the lead from Dejon Weeks? Martin has a run. Nowhere to go with it, but with Ryan Griffin. 3 wide further back, sort of. Hoffman cuts clear of Chris Dodd and Ryan Acosta. Martin's going to give a push to the 43. Here comes Dylan Young, Season 10 Daytona 500 champion. Going to make it 3 wide for 2nd place. And Dylan Young with a statement to be made for the 2020 season in his Hooters Ford. Up to 2nd position and has his eyes on the 43 Dodge. It'll be 6 laps to go at the stripe. Jeff James is up here in this fight with Charles Sanford and Caleb Hoffman. Further back, though, Ryan Acosta. There's Cody Lamas, Chris Dodd, Bobby Jones, DJ Curtis, Silver Fox, Shelley, Fitzwater, Davis, and Dom Capps. They are really not in contention here. Maybe they're holding back. I would really doubt to know why they're holding back. But Rodriguez and Weeks, some fast cars, giving a good shove to the inside line. Shuffles Martin and Griffin out a few positions there. I really want to give a good call here. We're coming to 5 laps to go, but I want to give a great call to Luke Martin and CM Racing right now. They are super quick. Quicker than I thought they would be. They are contending for the win. Horizon Group's Kyle Collins is on the inside in the mix of this as well. Dylan Young leads the Sony Shootout over Dejon Weeks. Matthew Rodriguez is sitting back there in 3rd. Yamp Motorsports 1-2 at the point. They continue to be super good on the super speedways, but Matthew Rodriguez is looking at trying to find that moment with his Napa Toyota as a moment here in the night for him to try and come out on top. Really, the 43, the 0, the 38, the 9, they look so good. The 1 car of Dylan Young has came out of nowhere right here at the very end of this race, leading with 4 laps to go. Dejon Weeks has just gotten shuffled further back. He's down to 5th place now. Dejon Weeks is looking for some help. They're kind of single file a little further back. Hoffman looking for a way around Jeff James. James is blocking further back. But up front, where are your friends going to come? It looks as though we have about 7 cars, or 7 or 8 cars. Looks like 8 cars are in a line as we come to take 3 laps to go. Excuse me, 3 laps to go. And Matthew Rodriguez taking a peek to the inside of Dylan Young. But that inside line is tough to make happen if you do not have any friends there. And Rodriguez can't keep the momentum up to stay along Dylan Young. Dylan Young looking for the first checkered flag of the 2020 season. And the number 1 looking to be P1 by the end of it. But that number 9 looks poised to make something happen. Luke Martin trying to get CM Racing their first ever checkered flag in the Cup level, period, in any kind of event. He's there in 3rd and looking very good. Dejon Weeks is looking for a way to get back to the front and get his 3rd win in a row in the last 3 years. Martin and Rodriguez trying to team up on the 1 car here. And couldn't make any run happen down in a turn 1. A lot of cars struggling with handling. Handling will be a factor for the Daytona 500 Speed Weeks. Lap and a half to go. Dylan Young out front. Looking very good right now, but Rodriguez is trying to time his run. Further back, though, Jesse Turner on Kyle Collins and Hoffman on Charles Sanford. He's been beat up there. Charles Sanford sure has. So Sanford's got some left side damage. The white flag is out. The final lap in the Sony Shootout for the 2020 season. Rodriguez getting a shove from Martin to the inside of Dylan Young. Can there be a last lap pass? Young is very quick. That Yamp car looking very fast. Rodriguez and the whole entire team behind him. Nobody giving a shove to the 9. Here comes Weeks to the inside with a push from Turner. But Martin's assist from the 0 to the 1 is going to give Dylan Young the assist he needs. Dylan Young out front and heading for home. Dylan Young didn't win a race all last season. He's going to start up the year right with a checkered flag. Dylan Young wins the Sony Shootout to kickstart the 2020 season. The first checkered flag of the year. It belongs to Dylan Young. And Yamp Motorsports has their third Sony Shootout win back-to-back-to-back years. Dylan Young holds off the charges at the end. He had a fast car. He was all by himself in turns 1 and 2, and still was able to keep that 9 car behind him. Matthew Rodriguez showed that Rodriguez Racing, at least the 9 car, is on rails. That car is flying. And Matthew Rodriguez finishes P2. Luke Martin and CM Racing, you have to really look at that team and kind of take them seriously right now. That team has been pretty solid. They won the championship last year in Hardy's National Series, and they seem like they have something going on in Cup right now with Luke Martin. That car was so fast. I'm curious to see how it performs all year. And the rest of speedweeks, really, because that speed is something I have not seen from CM Racing quite like that. That was a very competitive pace that CM Racing had with Luke Martin. 3rd place for them tonight. Jesse Turner, 4th. He was kind of there, but he was not the best. Dejon Weeks finishes 5th. He was so good, he came from the back to the front and led there near the end and got shuffled at the very end of it. Kyle Collins, he had a very solid car, comes home 6th place. Ryan Griffin was pretty good too, but he fell back near the end. 7th place. Caleb Hoffman started dead last. He finishes 8th. 9th for Ryan Acosta, and Red Bull Racing's return in the Sony Shootout. They seem pretty good. 10th place. Pretty stout run for them for Charles Sanford. And then further back, these guys that finished in the second half of the grid. DJ Curtis, 2017 champion, 2-time champion. He's 11th. Jeff James got near the front, got up there near the front, fell back to 12th. And the pace from the 34 team, it was very, very promising for Jeff James and them after preseason testing where they struggled. 12th place for them tonight. Cody Lamas gets 13th, right around where his teammate is. James Shelley, he started on the front row but fell back. James Sorfox finishes 15th. That team got up near the front at the beginning, but fell back. The defending champion of the 500, 16th for Chris Dodd. That team's going to have something to work on. Pole-sitter Bobby Jones didn't fare too well. He dropped down to 17th. And Jordan Davis, the defending champion, was nowhere all night. Davis was not a talking point at all. Turner was barely in the mix of it near the end. And Davis and Shelley really were kind of nowhere in the first 2 laps. They fell back, and they were not a major talking point all night. 18th for Davis. That's very disappointing for the defending champion. They have their work cut out for them for the rest of speed weeks for the Daytona 500. Zachary Fitzwater, that was actually a disappointing run for Fitzwater compared to Rodriguez Racing's Toyota Camp, really being a major threat for the win today. Fisher Motorsports, they also seem like they're lacking some speed here at Daytona. Gonna wait and see what qualifying is like for them. And Dom Capps, his with the new team of Domination Racing, they were kind of really struggling. I don't think they really got out of 20th place after the first lap. And Dom Capps, he was able to hold on to the lead draft, but that team really showed that they're not as fast on the super speedways and finishes up in the back of the field. But anyway, car 1, P1 at the end of this one. Dylan Young is back in victory lane at Daytona. Dylan Young, is he a threat to win the Daytona 500? You're going to have to find out for qualifying tomorrow, and then later on the Speed Weeks we have the duels, the twin duels that will be on Thursday, and that will set the field in who makes the Daytona 500 and the starting lineup for the 24th annual Daytona 500 next Sunday. And Dylan Young will be aiming for his second Daytona 500 win, and all these drivers will be looking to gain on something from tonight's race. Let's see you in the next one.